Hey guys, this is Mood Disordered Mind, and this video is mostly me venting. I've been going through a lot of stuff lately, and I guess I just need to express it and get it out and just talk about it because I've been extremely stressed, and it was almost to the point I was so stressed with everything that I was sort of headed down the same route I was back in August, where I had to go to the hospital. So, yeah, my life's just been kind of, for lack of a better term, crazy. It's just been crazy and full of stress, and I just need to talk about it. So, here I am. So, first off, it's been a while since I made a video, and that is because there's been a lot going on. I haven't really had the time to make a video, but now everything's kind of quiet. I'm sort of by myself. I mean, nobody's around to interrupt me making a video, so I'm able to make one, so that's good. Anyway, since my last video, there's been a lot going on with my son. He has special needs. He has autism and ADHD and mood disorder, and he has behavioral problems resulting from, from that. A lot of it from the ADHD. And I want to say, I can't really give time frames. Everything is sort of meshed together, but in the last month or two, my son has been in and out of the hospital. I don't mean like a long-term stay. I mean like going to the emergency room and getting evaluated about 7 or 8 times. And that has been very stressful. Obviously, if you've ever been in that situation where you have to go and be evaluated, and it happens all the time, it gets very difficult. He has these outbursts, anger outbursts, where he can't, control his body. And we were told in the emergency room by the psychiatrist, a lot of it is his ADHD. He doesn't have medicine to cover when the ADHD starts to build up. And that's what we're seeing, is that part of it coming out in him. And it obviously it comes out in behavior, acting up and that kind of thing. But he gets to the point where he can't, we have to call the emergency services to be able to get him into an ambulance and to be brought to the hospital. And that is a traumatic experience, whether it's for him or me. I mean, it's just a lot to handle, because it's happened, I don't know, 3 times in the last few weeks, and it's just been a lot to handle, because I look at my son and I can't fix it. I can't make it better. I can't just wave my hand and mommy makes everything better. And that really, I mean, there are things I can do with him. I can work with him, teach him coping skills and all that stuff, which I'm trying to do. But it's a lot of work. It is. It's a lot of work. And sometimes I feel like I'm a bad parent. I feel like I'm not doing something, or I'm doing something wrong. I'm not giving him enough, and people keep telling me I'm not a bad mother because I'm doing everything. I have services for him. I've been there with him every step of the way. I've been an advocate for him. The fact that I was at the hospital and talking to them and trying to figure out what to do. Even the doctor told me that I'm not a bad parent. he has a medical condition, and sometimes it gets out of hand, and it's not my fault, but I am there as a support person, and, that makes me a good parent, but sometimes you just don't feel that way, because you just wish you could just make it all better, and I can't, and that's a very hard thing for me to deal with. It's just, something that I have to come to terms with myself. A lot of the stress has actually been coming from the in-home support service that he has now. It's a longer term service. It's a virtual residential program. So it's very intense. It's like, I don't know, they do like at least 40 hours a week with him. He has BHP workers and a clinician, and there's been a lot of debate, if you will, around that. There are things about the program. I mean, I understand the program. It's like being in a residential facility. Things are done a certain way. You follow a schedule and that sort of thing. And I get that. And I was the one who actually introduced the schedule into his life, not the program. And I got that from when he was recently at the hospital back in November. He was following the schedule there. He liked it, so I brought it home, And, okay, like, for instance, okay, say you have dinner set at 4:30. That's when you sit down and have your dinner with your family or whatever. If we sit down at 4:35 or like 15 minutes later, they freak out, and it's like the world ended or something because it was a little late. You know what I mean? If I make something for dinner and Casey doesn't want it, and I offer him, okay, do you want peanut butter and jelly? Do you want mac and cheese? Hot dog, whatever. They get upset that I offered him a couple of choices. There's no flexibility. There's no room for being human in this program. And I have been working with my son since he was a year and a half, since he started having these behavioral problems, and that's when his autism first started appearing, and all that stuff started happening. So I've been with him the longest, and I've worked with him, and I've put many, many hours into working with him and trying to do what's best for him. And the clinician has the audacity to tell me that I don't follow the schedule. And I tell her, I follow the schedule. I do what's on the schedule. If things aren't exactly on the schedule, I make sure that they're on the schedule so it's there. For instance, if you normally would have dinner at home, and then you decide, okay, well, things aren't going well, so we have to have dinner outside, you make sure you plan for that kind of thing. And, yeah, I'm being told by the clinician that I'm not following the schedule. The reason that he's having these outbursts is basically because of me, because I'm not following the schedule. And this really ticks me off, because I am following the schedule. I'm the one who brought the schedule into the home in the first place. So I am highly offended. And when we were at the hospital waiting, about what we were going to do with Casey, we had a meeting with his clinician and his case manager, and she said the same thing to me. And I said, hold it. I am sick and tired of you saying that I don't follow the schedule, that all this is my fault. You know, I'm getting sick and tired of you saying that to me. I said, stop saying it. I don't want to hear it. It's enough. And 2 minutes later, she was like, well, again, I'm going to say it. It's behavioral. It's because you're not following the schedule. It's because you're not doing this. It's because you're not doing that. And she's basing these assumptions on the fact that my son has outbursts. You know, it's because the way the program is going, like, they should have seen a lot more progress than they have, you know, and they're worried that it'll reflect that their program isn't working. Well, maybe it's not, you know. His outbursts happen when there are workers in the home. When there's no workers in the home, he doesn't have outbursts. He listens. He follows the schedule. I mean, there are no problems. It's always when they're in the home, you know. And I knew at first when they came into the home that it's a change. You know, he doesn't do well with change, you know. So I knew that there would be some upheaval in the beginning, but they have been in the home since October, since mid-October. And my son has been hospitalized and has been in and out of the emergency room at least 8 or 9 times. I don't think that's progress, you know, but I don't think it's my fault. I don't think it can really be blamed on me solely. I mean, granted, I am not perfect. I'm not, you know. Sometimes I make mistakes. I'm human, you know, but that's what life is. It's trial and error. You don't always get it right the first time. And I am really ticked off that she is basically saying I'm a bad mother, because that's what I told her. I said, by you telling me it's behavioral and I don't follow the schedule and that's the reason he's having the outburst, is because you're telling me I'm a bad mother. And I said, do not say it again. Do not say this again to me. And she continued to say it to me in front of the case manager, you know. And I do everything that I can. I really do. I'm the one who pushed for these programs. I'm the one who is right there fighting with him, trying to get him to deal with his anger in a more positive way, and all this stuff. And then I get accused of it being my fault. You know, there's been other things, you know. The clinician, when she first came into the home, would make side comments all the time about stuff, things that, you know, it's just little things, but you knew she was like nitpicking and criticizing and stuff like that. And at one point I got fed up with it, and I told her, I said, you know, you make these side comments and it's inappropriate. I said, your personal opinion does not matter. You're doing a job, and that's all that matters. You don't come into my home and you know, make me try to live the way that you would live. I mean, that this is my home. I'm his mother, and this isn't going to happen. And she seemed to respect that. You know, she stopped making side comments, but it's come out in other ways. I mean, she's a my way or the highway kind of person. You do it my way, or too bad for you. You know, and I've tried working with her to, you know, to compromise and to do things that's best for Casey, not what's best for the program, what's best for Casey. And guess what? She doesn't care. She doesn't care. As long as her BHPs are getting the hours that they need and all that stuff, she doesn't care what's best for Casey. At least that's how I'm starting to feel. You know, there's just a lot of little things You know, she contradicts herself all the time. Like, after she told me that it's my fault and blah, 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 all that stuff, she then came out with, oh, but you're so good with him. You do everything right that you're supposed to do. I mean, she's like, she says one thing and then says the complete opposite, you know. Um, and there's been many times where somebody has been scheduled in the home, or she's been scheduled in the home, and she doesn't let us know that she's not coming or that somebody different is coming, and she's supposed to let us know, and then she gets mad at us for not knowing. You know, I mean, this is a lot of different things, you know. And I'm at the point now where I'm thinking of ending the program, because, I mean, my son is at the point where he comes home from school, because they come after school, and he will ask if there's somebody here today. And we'll tell him, yeah. Either if my mother gets him off the bus, or if I do, we'll tell him, yeah, there's somebody here. No, there's nobody's not here. And whenever he knows that they're here, he gets upset. You know, he's just like, oh, you know, I don't want them here. I just want a day to relax. I mean, he doesn't get a chance to just be a kid, you know. I mean, he's in this rigid program, and I honestly think it's too old for him, because a lot of their clients are teenagers, you know, and he's a 7-year-old boy. He just turned 7, you know. I think it's too much for him, you know. And the fact that he's had numerous outbursts, numerous trips to the hospital, he's been hospitalized, and this all has happened since they've come into the home. When he had other in-home support services, he didn't once end up in the hospital. No, I take that back. The first time that we had an in-home support service, he did end up in the hospital, but by the time the service got to the home, there was a lot going on anyway, so he probably would have ended up going anyway. But after he came home and all that, you know, he didn't have any more outbursts. It was like that one outburst and that one time at the hospital, and then he was fine, you know. And then the second in-home support service we had, my cat is on top of the fridge. Oh, what are you doing? Hey, Shadow. He's silly. When the second in-home support team came in, he had 3 outbursts in the course of 3 months. 3. And that was it. And he didn't end up at the hospital. And the clinician was teaching him coping skills, how to deal with his anger, ways to, you know, communicate verbally to get out his frustrations, you know, and that kind of thing. And they don't teach him any of that stuff. I mean, it's not therapy based, it's, I don't know, hospital based, I guess, I don't know. And they always talk about consistency, how I'm not being consistent. Yet, I talk to them because, you know, when you have an autistic child, sometimes you have to do things a little bit differently than you would normally with a normal child, or, sorry, a child who doesn't have special needs. I'm not going to say normal, because who knows what normal is. So you might have to do things a little differently, tweak it a little bit, you know, make it customary for the person. And that might mean, you know, having the same people in his life, or, you know, having a specific routine, having a specific routine around something, you know, a ritual, whatever, what have you. And for Casey, that is having the same people all of the time. Yes, different people can be introduced into his life, but constantly interchanging people all of the time, having numerous people at one time, isn't good for him. He gets overstimulated. It's too much for his brain to literally handle, and he has those outbursts. Oh, I see my kitty. um, like for instance, there are times when there are 3 BHP workers in the home, plus a clinician, plus me, and sometimes my mother. That's a lot of people for an apartment. It's a lot of people, there's a lot of talking, and he'll even say to us, there's too many people, there's too much talking, I'm overwhelmed, I can't handle this. He tells us this, and I try to talk to the clinician and say, look, 1 BHP, okay, at a time in the home. If there have to be 2, then people he already knows, not new people that they're training, and just keep it as minimal as possible, because we're trying to, the goal is to get him to recognize his behavior, try to not get so escalated, and to be able to bring himself back, and to use coping skills, but you can't do that if you're shoving like 4 people down his throat all at once. Nobody can do that, and they expect so much from him. I mean, they treat him like he's an adult. I mean, we went to see his psychiatrist, his last appointment, and we were talking about this, and his psychiatrist, gave the perfect example. It's like, in the morning, you get up, you do your morning stuff, you drive to work, in his case school, you go to school or work for like 8 hours, give or take, and then you drive another half hour to an hour to your next job, and then you work another 8 hours. I mean, for any adult, that is very tiresome and very hard to do, 6 days a week, So imagine what it's like for a 7-year-old with autism and ADHD to have to do that. It's a lot to ask of a child. It really is. When you really think about all that goes into it, and I'm sure that there are, parents out there who have, who have children with autism or Down syndrome or whatever, and you have services, and it's not always easy. It really isn't. And sometimes they expect so much out of you without, instead of going from, it's like a math equation, you have this formula, okay, but this program is expecting to have the formula and the answer. They're not like doing the work that's in between, you know what I mean, to get to the answer. And that's what I think is missing. I mean, we're not on the same page, and I'm just really stressed out about everything. I mean, it's to the point where I'm having night terrors again. I had stopped having night terrors, and I'm having them again. I'm not sleeping well at night. Like I said, I got so stressed. I don't know if it's last week or the week before. I don't know, the days are starting to meld together with everything that's going on. I was so stressed that I was like, my hands were just shaking all of the time, and my temperature was going hot and cold and hot and cold, and I was having panic attacks, and I guess I have to look at the big picture. If I decide not to go with this program, what does that mean for Casey? What does that mean? And I have to look at those options, like, okay, if I need the program in the future, will it be there? Will I be able to utilize it? By not having this program, he has that much less of a support. But I can always go back to the less intense in-home support services, although my case manager told me that it is limited because he has utilized it twice in the past before. So I don't know how many times I can do that. There's pros and cons to whether staying or dismissing the program. And I don't want to make the decision based on my personal feelings, I want it to be based on the fact that, is it benefiting Casey? Is he getting what he needs out of this program? You know, and at this point, I haven't really seen any progress. And I see them, you know, because they would rather, okay, and, you know, instead of trying to eliminate the outburst, and I'm not talking about giving in to him, but finding a different way to get him to do something without it turning into a big argument or fight. They are like, no, you have to do it this way. This is the only way to do it. I mean, like, there's no leniency or compromise or anything. And then it leads to this big escalation anyway, when it really did not need to happen in the first place. You know, so, I mean, they push him and push him and push him. And, you know, if I got rid of the program, I would still keep the schedule, because he benefits from the schedule. He likes having a schedule, so of course I'm going to keep the schedule, you know. And I want to, I mean, I don't know if any of you know of any information, any parents out there with autistic children or children on the spectrum, like any coping skills or anything that I could teach him that I could do at home. If there's any occupational therapists out there that are watching this, you know, if you know something that I could do at home with him, you know, in terms of sensory stuff, because a lot of his problem is sensory stuff, you know, I'm open, you know. There's got to be something that I can do, you know. Talking with Crisis, they told me about joint compressions, which I didn't know about before, and he likes those. You know, he actually told me that I said, Casey, whenever you get frustrated or overwhelmed or you can't handle something, tell me, and I will do the compressions for you to help calm you down. And he was able to tell me that a couple days after that, you know, oh, I'm getting frustrated, Mama, I need the compressions, I need them. And it eliminated a whole big blowout, you know. I mean, that was great. That was really great, you know. But yeah, I'm really struggling at this point with whether I should keep the program, you know, stick it out, you know, talk with them, see if we can come to a compromise, just see what we can work with. Because at this point, I mean, it's like the clinician doesn't even hear a word that we say, you know, and she's kind of flaky, you know, she forgets things, you know, she forgets that we have appointments, that we're going to meet at a different time, you know, and she makes these appointments and then she forgets them, and then she gets mad at me. You know, I don't know how much more of that I can take, you know. Mostly I take it because of Casey, because I want him to get the benefit of a service as much as he can, but I'm not sure if he's really getting it, you know. So I'm kind of struggling back and forth, and I've just been really stressed out. So another thing that stressed me out too, as you all know, I just moved into this wonderful apartment here. I keep hitting the computer, I'm sorry. I just moved into this wonderful apartment. I have been here a little over 2 months. And oh, this is awesome. You'll love this. Okay, there were one morning, my mother was here, and she had gone outside to the car, or it was afternoon, I don't know, and some of the neighbors were outside, and she found out that one of the tenants' cars had been broken into. And because of the way things were, I didn't find out until like a couple days after she found out. And I was like, oh goodness, you know, I had my my car chargers in my truck, so I'm like, okay, I'm gonna bring them in now. You know, make sure that there's nothing in my car that I don't want stolen. you know, and thought nothing of it. And then, and then a couple days after that, I woke up and I had a note underneath my door. Hold on, I'll be right back. Okay. I had this note underneath my door. Dear scumbag neighbor, if you, your husband, or anyone ever touch my car again, I will take you to court. If I ever hear you talking about me with the maintenance man, I will get you for slander. Your apartment is smelling up the hallways, and your undisciplined son ruined the rec room for everyone. Hope you're proud of yourself and your family. No one wants you here. Have a good day. For anyone who's wondering, this is harassment. This is bullying. This is a crime. The fact that they didn't sign their name or put their apartment number on it, the police can't really do anything about it. But just so you know, that is harassment. That is inappropriate. If you live in an apartment building or even in a house, whatever, if you have problems, go to the proper people. This person should not have sent me this. This only makes that person look bad, not me. Now, first of all, I do not have a husband or a boyfriend. I'm sort of seeing somebody, but we're not like, you know, it's not serious, I guess. You know, we're just taking things slow. But I do not have a husband. My apartment does not smell unless you count me cooking food. And my son did not ruin the rec room that they have here, because whenever he was down there, I was with him, because the TV got cracked a little bit and they're blaming on me. So I was blamed for breaking into someone's car. And then there's a girl that my son plays with, and she was in the hallways because she gets on the bus here, and there were some of the tenants talking about me and about her, and they went from it being my son who did it to she's the one who did it. And that, I guess there were, I didn't know this because we had a meeting with the property manager, because after I got this note I was livid. You know, I was really livid, because how dare someone do that? That's just disrespectful. You don't do something like that. And we found out that there were a few break-ins in the past like month, you know, into cars, you know, and I guess the neighbors were blaming that on me too, because, and the reasoning was because I had just moved in. So it must be me, you know. I don't even know how to break into a car. If I was going to break into a car, I'd just like throw a rock at the windshield, you know, make a lot of noise so everyone heard me. You know, no, I wouldn't really do that. But like, you know, that's just been another thing that stressed me out, because I was like, you know, I was already in a depression, already had low self-esteem, and then I get this letter, and then I'm dealing with this in-home support, you know, and dealing with my son, and it was just a lot at one time. And you know, I'm just been trying to work through that, you know, but that's kind of what's been happening in my life. I've been accused of breaking into people's cars, destroying the property that I live in, being accused of being a bad mom, not doing my job, you know, and having to bring my son to the emergency room a few times, more than a few times, like, you know, 7, 8, 9 times. You know, so that's been my life lately. So I haven't really been able to make videos or do much of anything, really. I did have to drop a class at school because I couldn't handle it. It was just too much. you know, so I'm still taking 2 classes, but, you know, I had to eliminate one. It was just too much. So yeah. Oh, and this is just random. Speaking of bullying, where I live, in the state I live in, there was a case of bullying where I think it was like 3 or 4 students bullied this one kid, and he's now in a medically induced coma. And they don't know if he's going to live. They don't know if he's going to make it. And do you know what the punishment that these kids got? They got 2 days suspension. 2 days suspension. That's it. For almost killing another person. What kind of message does that send? You know? And this, you know, bullying too. Just because you don't push someone around or yell at them directly by saying this kind of stuff, you know, I mean, it's harassment, it's bullying, and it's wrong. So, yeah. But on a lighter note, I am getting back in to see my old psychiatrist. So, I'm very happy about that. I have an appointment next Wednesday. Wednesday it is, yeah. So, I really like him. I really hate where I'm going now. It's horrible where I go now. They treat you like a number, not like a person. You know, I mean, my psychiatrist, I see her for like 10 minutes, if that, and the whole time she's like looking through my chart, you know, not even looking at me. You know, it's very impersonal, and then you spend like a half hour talking to the medical assistant before you see the doctor about everything, and she's on a computer, and it's, you know, and then I had to reschedule one of my appointments because I had class, and it took them 7 business days, it was 7 days period, to get back to me. Now it must have been 7 business days, I don't know. But it took them 7 days to get back to me, and then we basically played phone tag, because I would call, and then somebody else who couldn't schedule me would call me back instead of the person who could schedule me. You know, so the day before my appointment, I actually had to go down to the office and change my appointment. It was just ridiculous. It took forever. You know. But that will be rectified, so I'll be seeing my old psychiatrist, and I really do like him. He listens to me. He really takes the time to hear his patients and find out what's going on with them, you know. He doesn't just go, okay, yeah, tell me what you got. 5 minutes later, bam, you're out the door. That's not how he works. So I'm very excited to go back to see him. So, although, I hope he's doing okay, because I did have an appointment I had to reschedule because he had a death in the family. So I hope he's doing okay. But, yeah. Alright, well, this video is pretty long. I just needed to vent. So, thank you for listening to me, and I'll catch you guys next time.